The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Teddy, have you noticed how little attention science and health issues get in the media?
Totally, Edgar, yet science information is very important.
Yeah, for sure. That's why the Health Journalists Network is here.
How can they help?
They are a group of journalists dedicated to advancing public understanding of healthcare issues through impactful reporting on health and... Hey Teddy, have you noticed how little attention science and health issues get in the media?
Totally, Edgar, yet science information is very important.
Yeah, for sure. That's why the Health Journalists Network is here.
How can they help?
They are a group of journalists dedicated to advancing public understanding of healthcare issues through impactful reporting on health and science.
Oh, really?
Yes, they meet up every month with scientists and researchers, policymakers, and activists at the science media cafes. They then relay what they discuss to the public.
Does that benefit us?
Oh yes, very much so. This helps with health and science literacy for a healthy Ugandan society.
Okay. I love getting informed about science and health issues. Health information makes all the difference between life and death. I'll look them up and engage them.
That's great. They are based all over the country.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, and they should be making real impact.
They are empowering health communities through journalism. Journalists can save lives just like doctors.
The Ugandan National Museum, a place where unforgettable memories are created. Traditions are found and a connection to our Paul is reinforced. It is not only a testimony to the history of our nation, but also impacts knowledge of cultural and natural heritage to the present and future generations for their enjoyment. Through a variety of activities and exhibitions, we gather to discover our traditions and create new ones. The Uganda Museum is our country's cultural icon. The Ugandan National Museum, a place where unforgettable memories are created. Traditions are found and a connection to our Paul is reinforced. It is not only a testimony to the history of our nation, but also impacts knowledge of cultural and natural heritage to the present and future generations for their enjoyment. Through a variety of activities and exhibitions, we gather to discover our traditions and create new ones. The Uganda Museum is our country's cultural icon that makes it accessible for the next generations to come together as our story unfolds and represents the interplay of our country's past and present. It is in our history, but also in how it has evolved to embrace optical satisfaction and new influences. Our identity as a country is not only a moment in time, but also a journey of where we have been, where we are, and where we are going. We invite you to experience the authentic heritage, rich history of Uganda. Welcome to the Uganda National Museum.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk. The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Our dear viewers, we are back. My name is Norman Tumuhimbise. We are streaming live on our social media pages. That's the Alternative Uganda Facebook page, Digitalk TV Facebook page, the Alternative Uganda YouTube channel. And we have Honorable Awich Pola. We have Professor Rogers Barugayomwe. People say now professors in this country are becoming cowards. They don't want to participate, and they have all the books, but they leave the parliament to those who carry their equivalent on wheelbarrows. But we have Mr. Joseph Ochieno. He also belongs to that clique, but I want to believe he's going to contest by God's grace, and he has contested before. Unlike Professor Barugayomwe, I don't know what's wrong with the professors of late. Very cowardly, and I know we shall come with that to defend you. I know I'm leading with a lawyer. You will defend your status of fearing to participate in the electoral process. Honorable Awich Pola, the fair question that Professor asked was, how are you even prepared in managing the conflicts and resolving all that is happening at your... Because according to his judgment, you lack the capacity, and he even went ahead to ask, do you even have a dormitory there where people throw in the petitions and then you hear and address every complaint and are submitted? How strong and able is your party in regards to managing now that post? Because honestly speaking, the whole country is looking at you. If you mismanage this, who knows what is going to happen next year after February elections? Proceed, sir.
My comments are at two levels. The first level is generally how we are preparing to, or how we are prepared to manage, but also the other level is the methods of work, which is being questioned. Because when you ask whether they sleep on a deck are there, you're basically asking the method of work of the tribunal. Now, we have said that there are two things that need to be done after this election. One, the tribunal is put in place to try to resolve these matters. And when tribunal resolve, and we finally agree in the contested specific constituency who we think deserves the flag, then we have done that level. The other level is, remember, even the tribunal is appointed by the party chairman, and it is given the resources and the time to exercise its independence. So that is at the level of the tribunal. Assuming we cleared 381 petitions, we have resolved who we think deserves the flag, and it is these people that the party now writes them a letter with a stamp to take them to the Independent National Election Commission of Justice Biabakama to say, in the opinion of NRM,
this is
Mr. X or Madam Y is the
official candidate
for this. Now, after that, we have what is called, again appointed by the national chairman, we have a group of eminent leaders, including the Dr. Raukana Rugunda, who will move nationwide to reconcile, to tell our party members that, look, what we have gone through was an inside family election. Indeed, it was a family election. For example, for us as directors, we even had a guideline to say, in this party primary, if a candidate invites a director for dinner, or for a fundraiser, or for a function, directors should not attend, because at this level, we are the referees. The secretariat is the referees. We can't now side with one player. Therefore, since this is a family thing, at this level, we are not identifying with one. But after this, the eminent leaders that have been nominated, I know we trust in their integrity. For example, I nominated one from Lango, or Mr. Obua, who is a retired headmaster of Lango College. He has served and retired in peace at a very high level, because Lango College is a school at the level of Ntari School. And Samuel Becker, and Teso College, and Nyakasura. Why? Because before that, schools were formed on faith-based. Catholic, Anglican, Islam, Muslim. Now, thanks to the Labour Party of UK, there came a revolutionary party in UK in power who decided through the governor in Uganda that we should have non-faith-based schools. And that is why the entire came up. And that's why when you check in the board of governors, it was originally Ankole local government. Not Catholic, not Anglican. Same thing with Lango College, same thing with Teso College. Teso College, Aloet was Teso local government, which is the foundation body. Therefore, I'm saying there's a headmaster of Lango College who is retired, who will be among the eminent leaders. So you can see that we are going to a second phase, reconciliation by eminent leaders. They'll move all over the country.
Do you have time to, do you think you...
We shall, and in any case, we are thinking that, originally the thinking was that not all sports were trouble sports. We had non-trouble sports, Sembabule, Amolata, Lira of Samingola, and Umalinda, Sinjiro. So we had already mapped out trouble spot areas. But if need be that every areas need reconciliation, then we can see how we do it. It will be a method of work, how to devise a method of work. Therefore, there are two stages, the tribunal and the reconciliation level. Now, back to the tribunal about whether they sleep on deckers and all that. This is a matter of methods of work. The tribunal, when it was set, they were professional and competent. The first thing they did was to devise their methods of work. Knowing the challenge that we have, what methods of work do we agree? So they agree on their rules, they agree on their methods of work, which they knew the methods of work which was devised could face the task. For example, if you are doing hearing only, the hearing, you as members of the panel, you are supposed to take notes in an organized way that when it comes to time for decision making, the notes you have taken is such in an organized way that it helps you in forming your opinion. So it's a method of work. They have developed their own rules of procedures because they're independent. They develop their own rules of procedure. They develop their own methods of work, which is equal to the task. So let's wait and see how they resolve this, depending on the task and the methods of work they have developed.
Maybe I should also ask this, because some people out there continue to believe that your act of centralizing the entire process caused trouble, that the likes of Dr. Tang sitting at Chadondo alongside Ambassador Chinobe and others, and determining what is likely to happen in Zimbabwe or any other place, was not being honest and or truthful to yourselves, that you did not know the dynamics. So centralizing the entire process as in itself could have caused trouble. Even when inter alia you defended it and said the reason for which you centralized the whole process was to minimize. Do you think it has done either or?
Well, that is their school of thought, and it is their free thinking. Because the centralization here, for a viewer may not get it clear. Centralization at the level of nomination or centralization at the level of conflict resolution.
Literally everything is centralized now.
Now, if we tackle from the level of nomination, I had said sometime that the idea of centralizing nomination was to ensure that all the safety catches are made so that people don't skip through. You could have said we are going to put Buganda region nomination, Lango region nomination, or Acholi region nomination. That could equally work. It's a matter of choice. But in this case, what was decided was that centralize it so that you are not only watertight, but probably hairtight, to ensure that candidates don't skim in with, say, wrong academic qualification, Because as you know, when NRM nominates a person with wrong academic qualification and you put him as a candidate, it means the opposition candidate who will come, like NUB, UPC or whatever, will challenge this NRM candidate with wrong academic paper and kick him out, and NRM will have no candidate. So part of the thinking was that centralize it so that you're able to be not only watertight but airtight. So that is for nomination. Now, for justice delivery in the tribunal, still it was centralized because the national chairman thought that the documents around the election commission, all this reference material are around here, and therefore we could have this justice procedure, this tribunal deliver in one place. If you felt that Eastern Tribunal should have sat in Eastern or Western Tribunal should have sat there, that is a question of choice. But we have decided to do it here, and let's wait for the outcome.
Okay, we pray. So, of course, to begin with, Professor Rogers, you see, when I mention his name, is how his heart skips, because I'm going to ask him those tough questions, why they don't want to contest. What is it that is wrong with the elites like you and others not to participate in such processes?
Yeah, and
of course, beginning with you.
I'll answer it in relationship to the debate which was on the floor and with the decentralization and centralization. The NRM got it right at the beginning. And I keep saying they killed their own baby because at one time they diagnosed Uganda's problem rightly. And that's the time they brought the LC system, the NRC. I was a young boy, I was able to observe my father conduct MP elections. I remember it was Rugunda against Chitariko in Kabale. You get it? It was, all those systems were decentralized. And there was peace. Actually, the NRM had a system whereby the debates would even be at village, at district levels. That's when people at that time could look at what you said, a professor bringing sense. And that's how the people like Honorable Kanye Hambas came out. The people who debated our CA were very fine gentlemen. But out of their selfishness of making themselves stay long in power, they saw that this decentralized system will weaken the presidency. And they killed it. That's why now, just let's go in land issues. An LOC who knows what happens at the location does not have power. And they bring it to a judge. And so who is supporting corruption? And now, at that time, LOC knows, even if it wasn't his titling, he would know those funny things they call Mogorora. Yeah? He would know the plant, the land reaches here.
Shifted from this
now, how can a judge in Kampala determine, and that's how the whole thing even in this politics. Eh? Now, if it was Lango, I am well associated with Lango politics and where my brother which comes from. These people in Lango can even tell. That chairman, that headmaster, if this thing was done in Lango, could tell, not this Musime, can Musime, or Barata, no things which are working in Kashari. Do you get it? So what you talk about is these people knew and they brought a good system and it was all good. But out of their selfish system, their selfishness, they killed it. And now they think they have to rediagonalize. Because they did it and we all have examples where it was working. Did you ever see those things? We had NRC elections. Under they pretended that they're a political party, but under NRM, the movement
system,
that things were being done in a decentralized area. But now to lie to the whole nation that he's talking about the 300, but remember the LC 5 cases, I saw there were 180. So it's coming to 600 cases being handled. Now after these guys have done the verdict here in Kampala, now they are going to send the old men, the Honorable to do what after you've done the whole mess? like he rightly said, these guys, these elders know what is happening in their region. They even know who cheated, who did not cheat. These Baratas and Musime cannot know what is happening in Lango. They cannot know what is happening in Chigezi. And that's why, to answer your question, that's why they've irritated decent people from politics. They are, because I cannot go there to soil my name. I've hardly worked for. And they know it. The whole thing is systematic to knock out decent people from Ugandan politics. Actually, you should be even congratulating me. Because what do I come to talk about now? You have no any allowance. But that time the system even attracted people from DP, from UPC. Elites. Now, it does not even attract their own son because they don't want to do anything which looks holy. Yeah? And that's why I criticize them. Look at who heads parliament and the weakest parliament. These are members they can grasp anything from the opposition so long as it is quank. NRM, I said it is shedding off the cream and attracting all the dirty linen from all other parties.
We still have one of the cream here, but
no,
also to ask.
And that's why, and I respect Honorable Wich, and he knows I challenge. Yeah? He should be. Now, Honorable Wich should be like the Speaker of Parliament, and I will tell you, he should be.
I hope you're not causing him trouble.
But no, why is he as the Secretary? He can also not participate in the politics of mediocre MPs. Those ones, he knows. Let him go to...
A second. Honorable Wich, are you playing mediocrity at Chadondo? I think it should be a yes or no.
What Rogers is saying is, at the elective level, there's mediocrity. And what Rogers is saying is that at the secretariat level, by me being there, I am absolving myself from
the mediocrity.
Okay. But what I'm saying is that at the secretariat, we are doing, for want of better words, we are the referee in the game. So we are also part and parcel because the players are the candidates and the voters.
Okay.
For us, as a secretary, we are the referee in the game.
Professor, you have, let's use these 2 minutes of your time and ask, and also ask you to answer these questions. Who do you think such mediocrity serves?
Yeah, the mediocrity serves longevity of governments because, for example, look, and I keep telling the nation, look at the kind of caliber of people who are in our positions. Look at and I won't point out names for decency, but look at the former vice presidents in experience and look at the prime minister, and if you are to draw the curves, is it going up or going down? Because the time when they were saying if they give these people can just sleep, people who have literally cannot contribute anything mentally, but just people who are yes, and but the system.
Professor, do you know that the Right Honorable Nabanja is one of the biggest mobilizers that hold that prime ministry?
And I'm not talking about what I'm talking about, I mean, is it was
the potential in her itself, because you may not only need administrative wisdom alone, you also need mobilization.
Exactly. Let me tell you, for example, at one time, the NRM knew who is a mobilizer and who is a technocrat. And they placed the technocrats in their area and the mobilizer. Some should be Venara DCs, some should be, but now they left everything for just a mobilization. And then there is another thing which the president one time said that I don't have their salaries, so I put them in the system. So when that separation of power was abused, that's why the mediocrity, and that's why you need to just depend on these politicians. Maybe now we need to go back to the system like in Kenya, where now the senators, maybe the ministers, are not part of the MPs. That's where, because this nation now lacks technocrats. And now when you're a technocrat, and for example, you come out to be objective, at one time, President Museveni would attract objective people. But now it is less likely. And that's why you are saying that some of us are not participating,
Shying
but
away.
we are not shying
Because
away. We are not involved.
You're-
And we are just
You're good
relegated to just talk shows.
Your good English can't convince a voter. It can't convince a foot soldier. Your good English can't convince a voter.
And in case, exactly because of that, even those on the opposition, they've attracted a similar kind of crop.
I have this question for you. If you had an opportunity to offer free counsel to him on behalf of the NRM, how best would you have advised them to manage their issues? Primaries, and of course now what they are already facing. Because trust me, you, Honorable Awich, of course, I know with no doubt we are likely to have so many people with, of course, NRM leaning, most likely, because most often such issues haven't been managed well, and people have considered to run as independents, and also even won. So if you had an opportunity to give them counsel, how would you have?
I will tell them to go back to the qualitative view, whereby in their system of NRM, they shouldn't absolve anyone because of just, they shouldn't entertain it. They should have values as a party. And for a long time, we've not seen anyone, and that's why even I wonder why the tribunal is there. We've not seen someone suffer for not towing the party line. So if they create that culture of disciplining their members from a lower level and not look at mass, but look at quality of the members of parliament they would need, then they will help this nation, especially in the conversation which is talking about. Because, for example, right now, we are talking about, even it is in their interest, because the legislatures who are coming should be helping them to, because like to write a goodwill, because these are the same people who are going to punish them by the laws.
Just a question. You are saying your advice to us is to discipline people at a lower level. My catchword is lower level. So are you saying at a higher level should be let? For example, the vice president, Her Excellency Alupo, lost the election, and she went ahead and stood on independent. And that is contrary to the code of conduct. And she became a vice president.
And chair as an NRM caucus.
Are you saying we should discipline the lower and leave
No.
the higher? Were you serious by disciplining only lower?
No, I said the disciplinary levels should be from the lower up to the high.
Bottom up.
For example, the president shouldn't have appointed an independent candidate because he was encouraging that spirit.
What does that communicate to you as an opinion leader, but also as a veteran politician and a lawyer? What does that
my
communicate?
question was if you were serious only at lower level. That is all I wanted to know.
No, I clarify.
It is
clarifying. All of you ought to be disciplined. What do you learn from the president's appointment of his vice president, of course, and who was an independent?
He sent a signal, and that's why I can even bet in these guys who most of the judgment when it is given, all of them, because he set a precedent, and most of them are not going to allow. And in any case, we are going to have more independent MPs coming because of the precedent set that you tolerate everyone, and that is their weakness. And I hope if they address that, that's my take on that.
Back in the day when I was young, there used to be a song titled "A Coat of Many Colors." Now, UPC of many problems. Sir Joseph Ochieno, what is it in summary that is happening in your party, in particular primaries now internally? Because we have not had, I think the public hasn't heard of even any, when they are electing the Pope, there is that smoke. So your party neither gives us sometimes brings some bit of white smoke, by close of like an hour it brings dark smoke. So how prepared and what is happening in UPC in regards to organizing primaries?
Yeah, there is a mess. at the top of Uganda People's Congress. And when I hear what my colleagues are talking about, I get very worried, because we are the oldest political party. We are the most established political party. We are the political party with the most clear sets of values and ideology. And so therefore we should know better. But we are also the only political party that has formed a government directly with the mandate of the people. And so we are the only political party that has formed a genuinely democratically people's government twice. And so therefore, citizens who lived under our government lived with our burden of responsibility to cater for them and to provide exemplary leadership. And so we ought to know better. But I think part of what my colleagues are talking about, and I'll bring it back to UBC, is quite clearly a question of leadership. We said much earlier that this country is suffering from leadership from the top. I referred to the top from the chief executive and how has run this country in the last 40 years, how has moved it from really the nation state with colleagues like his fathers and many others. I know many people who went to the bush with Mr. Museveni. I know many people who supported him. I know many families and friends who tell me of how their families getting involved and how they got disillusioned and how much they can't believe that sort of a bit of a wasted opportunity in terms of the loss of direction. But particularly also how the whole thing has moved from a grouping of people, including the Kagames, to now a family. And so sometimes Museveni and his family forget Uganda is almost like a property. We are just like a tiny little farm somewhere in Raktura. And it's a problem. But then number two, linked to that, if we don't have the leadership, that means we lack the institutions, lack the systems. I think Mr. Museveni is very lucky to have people like Witch and a few others at the NRA Secretariat. Because that NRA Secretariat has, and for me as an observer, is a slightly different place. There are some people who are terribly bad, by the way, and they say that very openly, and you can see them. But as an organization that has moved towards being the headquarters of a political party and trying to do what headquarters of political parties do, there is a slight difference. You'll be surprised I'm giving them some kind of credit. But thanks to people like the Witches.
In your view, do you think their opinions matter?
I do not know, but I think allow me just to develop this. So that is that. Now, that which is happening in NRA, the political organization, considering the fact that parties had been banned for a very long time, and so young parties like his are coming up with no lived experience. That's why I'm saying the biggest burden lies with us as UPC, because we're relatively, we should know better, because we had some experience with that. Means that then back it with monetization of politics. But let me just go to the critical things. People don't know how to lose. People don't know how to win. Internally, it's very rare that you go to a place called Utuke and individuals, say from within NRA, are standing for parliament. And they're giving different shades of opinion, but strictly on an ideological basis from within that political organization, that we're NRA, we believe in conquering and occupying South Sudan, but for me, I believe that maybe, we should only send 50,000 soldiers, or maybe we should send commandos. And that's my difference opinion with something like that. Not there. The issue is how much money is dished, whom do I know at the party headquarters who can persuade Tanga via a wish to do things for me. Those things. Big problems nationally. And then, of course, then you go to the citizenry, that he called them rather big name, in terms of the confusion, meaning the general citizen, the fifth estate, who are basically victims. Bring it then to Uganda People's Congress. Ours is what he calls, if the best way to kill a snake is to cut off his head. So once we've lost a clear leadership at the top, the party constitution, which is very clear, the party values, which are the core in terms of sentence, in terms of ideology, which is consistent with, would be our normal manifestos. Because of the core, then without changing in terms of figures and certain priorities as they come annually or every election cycle, They will be at the center. You know that this will be our focus on education, our focus on different kind of stuff. Then you come to a situation in which now you have people who don't know what constitutions are for. So the British constitutions as they saw fit. See, as they see fit. Yesterday I was with a small delegation from Western Uganda, Northern Kole, and part of the conversation I was saying to these guys that, well, I sort of don't blame don't blame some of our leaders, because some of our district chairpersons are 55 years old, but the only experience they have is that the sons or daughters of former party leaders, or the young teenagers, maybe they were just joining the party. They were the young activists from UPC families. But since then till today, they don't have experience of being members of an organized branch party, because they've never seen it. They've never been committee members, so they don't know responsibilities of committees. They've not been even secretaries of small groups, and so therefore they don't even know how to take minutes. And so that is how bad skills thing. But then, because politics, what now me, myself, and I, and the resources kind of state, and the corruption that we talk about, it's not surprising that then at the top, I think I mixed it up a bit. The leadership crisis we have is primarily, of course, you're taunting us about the 4 presidents we've got, 4 leaders we've got. No, I believe there are 3 people who declare themselves president. The 4th person is myself, and I've not declared myself president because I don't believe in that nonsense. So we basically have a situation in which one individual, either on the basis of entitlement or impunity, breaches the party constitution. No internal mechanism. I think it's part of the topical end of our conversation today. What are the issues? If there are no organized internal mechanisms, which these guys try credit to their existence of power and organizations at the moment, and the fact that Museveni will whip them, if there is no internal mechanism for conflict resolution, people take the laws and rules into their own hands. So in UPC's case, unfortunately, the absence of clear leadership, and with particular people who see themselves as more UPC than others, you breach the party constitution, but you don't want to be held to account. Jimmy, on this occasion, I'll then bring Jimmy quite clearly breached the party constitution in 2015, following an election to replace Olaro Tunu. Other people challenged him. It didn't work. These guys went to court. Court agreed with them. Jimmy appealed, but partly for various reasons, the matter took 4 years. But Jimmy continued holding out, and again, in Uganda House, he hasn't been given the keys like Museveni. He forced himself into Uganda House by chasing Olaro Tunu, so he remained down there. You guys in the media called him president for 5 years. Then the Court of Appeal ruling comes, asks for fresh elections. Jimmy continues there for another 5 years as president. Court of Appeal ruling means that we have fresh elections. Fresh elections takes place. I participated in it. It was rigged. My figures were played around. So in other words, that's how I ended up with the so-called 4 presidents. But more recently, I think for the viewers, I don't think we've discussed this more recently. Jimmy decides to call for a delegates conference, who will now be moving in 2026. He puts a roadmap for elections. Nominations for party leaders came. He and one Dennis Enap, they go through as they get nominated. Huge amount of money, 20 million Uganda shillings. It's almost criminal, my Labour Party friend. In the event that I'm president of the party, there's no way in which you can ask a candidate for any particular position for 20 million Uganda shillings. That is elitism of extreme mafiaism. I'm not saying that applies to NRA because it's 20 million for Mr. Museveni, but these guys can afford because of our money from the port. So I think it's just shambolic. So they did that. Enap, being a young, sharp lawyer, knowing very well that Jimmy had already served the 2 terms, for Jimmy, under the arrangement, for Jimmy, for whatever reason, had committed himself that he wants to continue, including to become a presidential candidate this time around 2026, for which he did not stand in 2016, he has not explained it. He did not stand in 2021, he did not explain it. But we have rumors that there's an understanding between him and others, maybe the which is no better kind of stuff. Then this Enap runs to court. And then court finds that, yes, Jimmy indeed was breaching the party constitution by deciding to go for a 3rd term because of contrary to the party constitution. Now that brings turmoil in their side of the party. And for me, I was watching because I knew that ENAP should really not even have participated in that election because it was participating in an illegality.
Mr.
And
Osheno,
so that's what happened. But let me just
for
conclude.
how long will you
Let me
watch?
just conclude in 30 seconds, really. You know, so when Jimmy organized the call for that extraordinary delegates conference, which he now did after court had ruled that he was not a leader, his suggestion was that he was calling it because he was returning this matter to the delegates. Extraordinarily, in that delegates conference, we all knew that he wanted to amend the constitution to remove the term limits. And then number two, he wanted to extend his interim period to 12 months. The day before that, you know, for the record, my lawyers had gone to court, you know, previously because my matter is pending later this month. So they decided to go and seek a temporary injunction against Jimmy proceeding with this. And the temporary injunction was granted, but typically for Jimmy, he disregarded it and went on to hold this delegates conference. Where we are at the moment is that the substantive temporary injunction is being possibly disposed of later this week. But at the same time, there's quite clearly a fundamental strong case of contempt of court by Jim McKenna. That's the mass in which we are. But I still hope that this matter is resolved quite quickly. And it's an indictment of Mr. Comrade, which is government and their judicial system, that my matter should have taken such a long time. I hope this matter is resolved quickly, because if it's resolved quickly, it will resolve the question of leadership. Very likely what will happen is that it will be found that I won the elections, I'm declared leader, and that I hope permanent injunction is granted, and that I'm leader, one leader. Then I will have the burden of responsibility of seeking to reunite the party. Sort of that is this. And I hope that is done quickly enough for us then to deal with the internal processes of continuing the primaries and other things, for preparing for candidates for the coming election.
In short, I do not want to sound like a prophet of doom, but perhaps just because of the public perception, it's like UPC as of today seems to lack, I don't know, do we say a specific program or roadmap? Like you are in and out of court, like, but also now to ask you, save for these other party structures, does UPC have some other bodies that before you run to court, perhaps you also tried? Yeah. For instance, some parties would say they have, I will mention the recently launched PFF. They say they have a council of eminent persons. Some other parties have national council. How is UPC like?
Most parties borrowed their internal party systems and communities, say, from us. We have from the structures include from delegates come from the national council, as you referred to. But no, I think the fundamental one, which is the grievance body, which is basically conflict resolution mechanisms. After the electoral commission, the system actually, interesting. That's the weakest and quite surprising. It's not very clear in UPC that you know, for the grievance that arises out of an election, whom do you go to? That mechanism is not very clearly defined in our party constitution. But I think again where you're right, which is an indictment on us, I expected that party grandees, as a grand old party like UPC, should have been able to harmonize and bring together us together. But I think partly because of other things that I don't want to go into television, I think certain people have sort of given up, and certain personalities have now pushed an agenda for themselves. So part of what I'm actually trying to do is basically to challenge some of these established power centers and centers of impunity, because I want to reclaim this political party and return it to the membership, so that together with parties like his and together with people like the Witches, we're able to reclaim the Republic of Uganda for all Ugandans. Okay,
now that you mention his name, Honorable Awich, with what has transpired at your Chadondo offices, you as observers or referees, slightly adjacent where the trouble is, for lack of another word, is there something that you have reflected on and you're like, I think in our view, here we miscalculated, and perhaps this is how we should have done it best? In reference to this,
of course, we try to make things better, but let me just comment about what O.B. Rogers has said. when you ask Rogers about what advice he would give, he said there should be disciplinary action at the bottom. Then I followed it up about the top. And we gave the specific example of the vice president. He said equally that should be disciplinary action should have been taken so that a precedent is set. I just like to comment that, like in a criminal proceedings, the violations of a vice president standing, it should be the party complaining. The party should be the one complaining.
So it has no locus?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying should be the party complaining. Like in this case, the DPP complaining. Now, if the DPP chooses to drop a prosecution, in this case, if the party chooses not to, then it can. And in that case, it did. What I'm saying here is that sometimes our party chairman and the party at large thinks that if you follow the law to the letter, in a mass party, you end up breaking. So it brings in flexibility to allow something happen or something to pass. To what extent that flexibility will cost us, we are yet to know. But what I'm saying here is that the vice president breached by contesting as an independent under the code of conduct is a breach, a serious breach which can lead to expansion. But what I'm saying here is that President Museveni and the party at large believes that if a mass party like this, if you have to follow the law to the letter, you may end up breaking. So flexibility is allowed, and therefore that is why the party didn't complain on this, it let it pass. So, as I said, as to what effect it affects us is what we shall study and see. Now, on the question of the Congress, it's really saddening that Jim McKenna, who should actually be holding us in power accountable for lack of rule of law, is the biggest beneficiary of breach of law. If there's any Ugandan who has walked away with breach of court orders, it's Sakana. I think on record he has walked away with breach of court orders than Muozi. Because we don't have on record.
What does that communicate?
So what I'm saying here is that...
In a second, please. What does that communicate? In a country being presided over by you in a collective as NRM, and you proudly come here to say and confess that Party A has abused the law, doesn't that also come back to you as non-performers when it comes to government, you people who preside over this country? Because we won't be here. Okay, to whom do we cry to?
My answer to you is that you are impatient. You don't wait for me to develop my point.
Because you could have avoided the question. Okay, proceed.
If you had waited, you would have. You are just impatient. If you had let me develop the point, I was coming there. So what I'm saying is, it is saddening that Akena, who is ideally on the opposition, to keep us in power in check, including warnings us about breach of law, in this case the law which is being breached by court orders, repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly, to the extent that nearly court orders mean nothing, is absurd. Therefore, I am now querying to what extent are the aggrieved parties, the holders of the court ruling, being let down by the state? And that is what answers your question. For example, the contempt that is being processed. I want to see a contempt proceedings that court hands over that you are in contempt of the court. And the procedure or the remedy and the penalty is this. I want to be on record to say, yes, my friend, the state let you down because a contempt of court or a court order is supposed to be executed. Like land eviction.
Yeah.
If you get a court order for land eviction, police is supposed to cooperate.
Yeah.
Police is supposed to cooperate. So it is at that level, therefore, that we shall ask and say, look, the state, You are supposed to enforce law and order. I have my court ruling in my hand, and you are not helping me. That is it. So that is to the extent that I thought you are not impatient. That I was saying, I wanted to draw it to a level of where is the state involved and the state has not helped. So we shall therefore check it at that level of if the state joins in the impunity, that there's a court order, there's a court decree, there's a contempt. Of course, the Congress may go back and cite provisions that I'm not aware, or incidences where states should have done something. But I am really alarmed by the rate and the manner in which Akena violate court orders, nearly countless. Okay, you can count and you have so many, and it goes away with it. Now, back to the party, to my party, that you're saying the lessons that we have
you could use a minute and you say your closing remarks, and then we shall refer to
the lessons that we have learned are many. I may not say all. For example, I can even tell you that the lesson that we learned is, even in terms of logistics, the timely funding that we looked for to get timely ballot, declaration forms, how timely we got the registers. So those are lessons to learn, because eventually they affect. We have also learned how to reorganize personnel for the management. How do we educate the registers? Are the registers aware about their role? Do the registers really enforce to the extent that they make only those on the register vote, or people scheme? We are learning how do we go to prohibit malpractice like use of money. I saw in some incidents the minister in Busoga distributing money in the line. So there are many lessons that we have learned and that we continue to learn. And we hope that when we learn them and implement them, it pushes us to another level. Do you want a closing remark?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Well, my closing remark is that it is paramount that parties look into internal democracy. In this case, we are discussing party primaries. All parties, irrespective of whether NRM, UPC, should look into their internal democracies and ensure it is managed well. Failure to manage internal democracies in a way spills out to the bigger national body politics, and which is not good for the governance of Uganda. As NRM, we shall try our best.
Thank you. Professor, pick it from there, and I do not know whether, I think he has even addressed most of your concerns, but of course, give us your closing remarks, of course, giving us some bit of what is likely and unlikely to happen.
What is likely to happen is that we as a country should be building a culture, and at one time a political culture, and at one time it was UPC with it and it played around with it. I feel happy when Akena is crying, and then Lango, the UPC is only in Lango, because I saw how can you take a conference to Kamudin. If NRM does not learn, we are going to see an NRM conference in Rachtura in Yashosi in 20 years to come. So if you are doing these things, you are not acting for yourself. You are doing this to add on the culture of politics. What NRM is doing is not for President Museveni to lead in 5 years or 10 years. You're adding a culture. UPC, and it's good you had their testimony. They are crying foul word, yet they were in the government 2 times and didn't build on the culture. Whenever it was election, they would manipulate things to stay in power. Now the NRM is doing the same thing. And then in future, who will they cry for? They have the opportunity, like I told you, they would rather lose the masses and build a culture. We want qualitative, we don't want quantitative. So that is every one of us, like I will tell you, you said, me, I'm here with the Labour Party. Why did I choose Labour? Because Labour is an ideology. We are talking of East African community. Labour can be in Tanzania, can be in Kenya. NRM cannot cross to Kenya. ODM cannot cross to Uganda.
Okay.
And then they tell us about East African Federation. So for me, I'm building a culture which will be there even in 40 years.
Use these 30 or so seconds to answer this question. Is the Labour Party going to participate in the forthcoming elections?
No, because one, we are the only people who are saying we are taking a protest vote. This group of saying protest vote and then you participate is a comedy.
Okay.
We are in a protest vote until the referees, until NRM cleans its house and cleans the political atmosphere.
Yours is a real
protest vote.
Mr. Ochieno, honestly, in
the
40 or so seconds, the likely and unlikely.
Protest mood. Just for you to know, Roger, that you learned these lessons from some of the very biased textbooks. We've only been in government twice. The independence government, our going to government was not disputed, our elections. In fact, our founding parents say that some of the irregularities were actually predominantly caused by ADP in certain constituencies in Uganda, and we chose not to contest because of goodwill. It's actually on the record, and you who liked reading, you should. 1980, it's a closed chapter. NRA used it, but as I said, it's taken them 40 years. The Kitarikos and all those people were in government, they were not able to prove it. So that's one chapter.
Yeah,
but look, the quick thing is this. We need to genuinely build a new culture politically. But that culture has ever existed in this country. Roger, apparently, the 1980 general elections, which I watched as a young person in Toronto, for the primaries in UPC, Osinde Kwangwore, who went on to become our government side chief whip, defeated Wanuthiano Simba, a liberator, by actually 2 votes. These people went on to live on and side by side together, and there's not a problem. I went around, I never saw politics of money or anything else. But Comrade Wich, I know I'm concluding, Comrade Wich, I think there's a approach that we should go consensus because we don't want to go legal. Fair enough to may work for certain organizations, but if we're actually trying to build systems for the future, my view is that we should simply say the rules are this, and we stick to the rules. I have been privileged to serve in the British Labour Party, let alone my own UPC that I headed externally as UPC for External Bureau for a long time. But if I stick to the External Bureau, to the Labour Party, side by side with the man in which I ran the External Bureau of UPC. If you say the meeting is starting at 9 o'clock and the standing order says you don't take more than 30 minutes, it doesn't happen. Even for our UPC, I would not do it. Okay. So generally we are simply saying that let's learn to play by the rules. These things have happened in this country. They happen in other sides of the world. The more we do that, the more we shall be encouraging young people to grow and know that rules must be respected and obeyed, internal rules. And if not, we apply the law, and the law, if we apply it, the law should be fair to everybody, and the law should not be one which is bought by money or power.
Okay, you have heard from each one of the panelists. Unfortunately, I have also abused the rules. I was supposed to close at 9 sharp. I have closed it 1 minute past 9. See you some other time, Norman.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.